Gelakaslo, greetings. My name is Tom Seawood, President of Pacific Balance Marine Management. It's the British Columbia First Nations group that is working with our Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans to see license for the continued harvest of seals and sea lions, but licensed so that we can sell the products derived from the seals and sea lions that we are presently harvesting and always have since the dawn of our creations. Since the 1970s, the harvest by Canadians for seals and sea lions to be able to be sold into the fur industry and other industries derived from the animals has been banned. And since that time, everyone knows out here on the coast that we've seen an explosion of the population of seals and sea lions. And due to that explosion, they're eating what they eat, seafood. There are so many seals and sea lions, though, that they're decimating our salmon, ooligan, herring, steelhead, trout, sturgeon in the Fraser River. And the fisheries scientists have even found that in what we call the Salish Sea, or the Gulf of Georgia, between Vancouver Island and Vancouver mainland, that there is populations of herring that are extinct due to predation by seals. I'm a commercial fisherman, have been for 45 years, and I have seen in the last 25 years the seals and sea lion numbers exploding. In the 1980s, I saw the California sea lions start to enter our waters from down south, and now we have some 20,000 plus in our waters, and everywhere you go, you see the seals and sea lions, the seals in the estuaries, up our rivers, right at the gates of our hatcheries, and in some systems, the seals and sea lions have even migrated upriver into the lakes where the salmon and the trout hold. So there's a big problem. And we're saying that we want to see the redevelopment of the industry of pinniped harvesting. I'm here in Canada at a place called Fur Canada. It's based in Vancouver Island in Nanaimo. I'm an Indigenous advisor to them. And what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to the native communities of British Columbia and saying with our communal licenses for food, social, ceremonial harvest that we have, we must review them. We must look at and see how many seals and sea lions we're allowed to harvest. And those numbers are low because those contracts with the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans were made back in a time when there was no overpopulation. So we need to look at those communal agreements, we need to see the numbers, and we need to ask the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans to increase those numbers so that when the industry, when fisheries allows us to sell the sea lion and seal products that we harvest, then we're going to be able to have a new fishery, so to speak, so that we can go out and harvest the animals, retrieve them, do toxicity tests with the blubber, costs about $80 per, so that we can get Canadian Food Inspection Agency certification to sell the pinniped meat and the oil from the blubber to food and pet food consumption. And there's an industry that we can develop. We also have the bones. Here at Fur Canada, grizzly bear and black bear skulls and other skulls, walrus skulls with the tusks, narwhal tusks. There's buyers throughout the world that are eager to be able to purchase these, but they're even more eager for seal and sea lion skulls because they haven't been available on any market for decades. And who knew there were skull collectors? But a big sea lion skull, if it was this big and prime shape with good teeth, I've had some people saying they'd pay up to $1,500 US for it. So there's another industry. The crab, the prawn fisheries, they want the oil and the meat and the blubber for bait. You can buy octopus and squid and herring, smelt, anchovy. Why can't you be able to buy seal or sea lion for your crab trap or the oil for your pellets for your prawn traps? And then of course for Canada, their industry is furs mainly. You see these beautiful seal boots for a woman. You see these boots here for a man. And of course, this is an East Coast seal hide. And from those hides, Fur Canada makes these vests like mine and these ones up here. They also make pillows. I'm sitting and this rug below me is all East Coast seal hide. Natural gray and black blotches and blue dyed seal hide from the East Coast. The East Coast has a huge harvest of seals. The North Coast of Canada, the Arctic, the Inuit, they have their food harvest for seals, for blubber and meat, but they asked the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans if they could sell the hides because it was a byproduct, and they were granted that. Well, here on the West Coast, we know as First Nations that we've always used seal and sea lion whiskers for our regalia. Our headpieces carved of alderwood with abalone inlay of an animal with sea lion whiskers, and these white ermine skin hanging on a cloak behind. And in our great ceremonies of potlatch, we go and dance the peace dance. In my language, Kwakwala Kisla. We also can go to the art galleries and see these headpieces and helmets and other things made with seal and sea lion whiskers and seal and sea lion teeth. Well, fisheries apparently has allowed some First Nations to sell seal and sea lion so long as it's manufactured into something. You can't sell right now legally, hides, raw hides, or meat or blubber or bones, and that's what we're trying to change. But right now, the Indigenous people need to understand in British Columbia that our salmon runs are being decimated by the overpopulation of seals and sea lions. As the president of Pacific Balance Marine Management, I'm asking you to please contact me so that we can help you get the money so you can go out and do an enumeration of the seals and sea lions in your traditional territories, a small report, some pictures, some video, send it off, and then more funding will come available so that you can start doing your harvest, but also an assessment of what these seals and sea lions are eating in your rivers, your lakes, your estuaries, because we don't have that data, not enough of it anyway. And we're working hard, and we need your support so that we can get letters of support, memorandums of understanding in some cases. We need our First Nations organizations, Native Brotherhood, the First Nations Fishing Council, the United Allied Workers Fishing Union, and every other Native group that's out there, bands and individuals included, to please go to Facebook, ask to join Pacific Balance Marine Management, scroll through and see our posts, but also reach out to me, tom.sewid@gmail.com, tom.sewid@gmail.com, and also you can reach me on my cell phone of 604-724-7325. The last four numbers spell seal. Go figure, eh? But anyway, as you can see, the furs industry is still vibrant. We see and hear about the signs of Hudson's Bay being taken down in Vancouver and other places. It's not the end of an industry, nor is it the end of an era. It is actually an era beginning of opportunity for the First Nations of not only British Columbia, but everywhere in Canada, from coast to coast to coast and everywhere in between, that we need to take the reins of the fur industry as we did prior to contact, and we need to get to be more active in it and eventually to control most of the markets. British Columbia, we're on the doorstep to the huge national market of China and other countries in Asia that want fur products, seals, sea lions, sea otter, wolf, ermine, mink, river otter, the list goes on. And Pacific Balance Marine Management, yes, we're focused on seals and sea lions, but we're hearing from Native tribes that they also want us to help them with the sea otters. We're even hearing from other tribes that they want to get involved with trapping, but that's not our mandate, nor is it our focus at this time. But to tell you the honest truth, I'm learning a lot about the fur industry. I sit on the National Seal and Seal Harvesters Association. We work together with the Fur Institute of Canada. I'm communicating with people that are involved in the fur industry, from the mink farms to the trappers to the manufacturers, and I'm hearing that Canada has a void. We need tanneries. We need auction houses for fur, especially here in British Columbia. There's so many different things that we can socio-economically and most of all culturally develop and prosper with the fur industry. And as we know, the fur industry was always a part of Canada's Indigenous since the dawn of our creations, but after contact, it would be the foundation of what built this great company called Canada. So we need to unite now, all of us British Columbia natives, for the push to see license for seal and sea lion harvesting and sales of the products derived from it. But we also have to remember that there's a lot of people that aren't in agreement to fur harvesting, whether it be farms or natural harvesting, but they don't understand that furs are an integral part of all Indigenous people of Canada and Canadians as a whole. They don't understand that they want us to wear faux fur. Well, that's pretty silly, going to a potlatch and dancing in a regalia wearing plastic furs, when natural furs we've always been able to harvest, but it also breaks down, it's biodegradable. So when those people come after us, the antis, they have to understand that we First Nations are more Canadian than Canadian. We carry a lot of clout. So in other words, if an environmental organization or its supporters were to try to stop our fur harvesting, whether it be pinnipeds or land animals, we can put forward to our chiefs and councils the request for a band council resolution that in that environmental group or its members be banned from our traditional territories. It don't seem like much, but it is so powerful, because if the world finds out that an environmental organization is banned from a tribe's traditional territories, their funding, their donation dollars will stop. Because as we all know, you do not pick on the Indigenous people, period. And that's in every country of the world. Australia with the Aborigines, Brazil with their new president a couple years ago who wanted to shove aside the Indigenous people and frack and mine and clear cut their traditional territories, where the world stood up and the Brazilians stood up and said, don't you pick on the Indigenous. You allow them to have their culture and heritage, their way of life, and you don't damage their resources or their environments. So this is where we're at. We are at a juncture in our existence as Native peoples to be able to do like we have done since the dawn of our creations, to prosper with furs and other products derived from the animals that we harvest. And when it comes to being sustainable, the people that are against must understand there's two creatures that are extinct in North America: the carrier pigeon and the Steller sea cow in British Columbia, Pacific Northwest region. They were made extinct by the newcomers to the great place we call Turtle Island, North America, and they're no longer with us. But aside from that, all of the fur-bearing animals, be it seals, sea lions, sea otters, river otters, land animals, their populations are still healthy. So it shows you that the fur industry of Canada is a sustainable industry and shall always be. So I ask you to please, if you don't like what we're doing with our pinniped harvest here in British Columbia and other fur harvests, to please be respectful of the Indigenous people of Canada, and please be silent and step aside, because we are going to do it, come hell or high water. And if you are supportive of it, please reach out to us. And like I said, Tom Seawood, President, Pacific Balance Marine Management. I'm here to communicate with you and to negotiate with you if you're against what we're doing, so we can come to the common ground of agreement, so that we don't have to support one another, we just need to respect one another. I thank you very much in the language of my people from northeastern Vancouver Island, the Kwakwaka'wakw people. I'm also half Cree. Halakilisla. Go in peace.